First, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello everyone, welcome to Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler. We appreciate you joining us. We are live streaming here out of the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom as we do every weekday starting at 1 p.m. then going throughout the afternoon, covering a wide range of topics. Make sure to download that Fox 12 Oregon app on whatever device or platform you're watching on. That's a great way to watch this show and everything else that we have going on here. And while I am here in the studio right now, we do go out of here sometimes and go out and take a look at different things around the area. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. We went out to the headquarters of Life Flight Network down in Aurora, Oregon, at the airport there. Now, they're located there where we went, but they do have locations all across the entire Pacific Northwest, even into Montana. And Life Flight Network, as you probably know, is a medical transport company, meaning when you're in those situations where it's an emergency, where it's not going to be possible to, or maybe not feasible to have somebody drive and get someone to a hospital. I'm talking about a real serious situation. They can send in a helicopter or a plane, different ways to transport people to emergency services. That's just one aspect of what they do. They also do facility to facility transportation and a number of other things as well. And so we wanted to find out more about what that's like and find out what happens when they do get those emergency calls. So we went out to the headquarters. We spoke to the CEO. You're going to see part of that here at the beginning, but we also spoke to a pilot, to a nurse, to a medic, to everybody that's really involved in this to see what happens when that phone call comes in. But we're going to start it off talking to CEO Ben Clayton, and it's in a pretty unique room that I'm in. We'll explain it right in the beginning of this. Here we go. Ben, thank you, for having us in here. I really appreciate it. I would be remiss if I did not address, though, this room that we're in here to start off, out here in Aurora. Tell us about this room and what we're looking at here.
Yeah, so this is our flight training device. It's pretty state-of-the-art, and it allows pilots to come in and train any number of scenarios that you can think of that you would want to do. They can come in and learn to fly the specific aircraft, but then learn to train to do all the advanced maneuvers that our pilots have to do.
So this could be, you could set it up as, a storm on Mount Hood or, something out over the ocean, whatever it is, those situations they could find themselves in.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can land at hospitals here, and the real hospitals that they would actually be going to and land, so they can see it before they ever actually even get out to the field to do the real flights.
Wow, so like the topography, everything, it's matched up to exactly what it is. I mean, that's got to be a huge advantage for training.
Yeah, it's great. It's really awesome.
Well, for Life Flight Network itself, could you give us just, I mentioned that we're out here in Aurora, but you have locations all over the place.
We do.
Could you give everyone just a little bit of the history of Life Flight, how this came to be, and how it kind of works?
Yeah, sure. So we started out February 28th of 1978, actually. Okay. And so we were one helicopter, and we were at Emmanuel Hospital, now Legacy Emmanuel in Portland. And we were the first hospital-based air ambulance program on the West Coast, and we were the fourth in the country. So we really have a long history. And since that time, we've expanded and grown in response to needs of the community. And so now we're in 30 we have 30 rotary wing bases and 10 fixed wing bases across 5 states, Oregon, Idaho, Washington, Montana, and Nevada. And we're there and saving lives every day.
Well, I mean, and all starting from one helicopter in Portland to expanding that. So from 1978 to now, that's a lot of coverage to go from that to 5 states.
And one of the really interesting things is it's really the care that's going on in the back. So our aircraft are all equipped as a flying intensive care unit. And so we fly with a nurse and a paramedic on board, and they have a really highly specialized, and they can do a whole number of different interventions required during the transport.
When it comes to just Life Flight Network in general, what do you think is one of the most important things for the general public to know about the service that you provide?
I think it's just that we are there 24/7, 365 days a year to save people's lives when they need it most. And so we're always ready. We're always ready to respond, and we're really proud of that.
And to that extent, also on the other side, what do you think is one of the biggest misconceptions people have about Life Flight Network?
I think that people just probably don't even know we exist. It's not something, fortunately, that people have to think about that, I might need to get transported by these highly specialized crews. So it's probably just awareness that we're even around.
Right. Not necessarily a ride you want to book, but when you need it, you're going to want that.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having us out here. We're going to check out some of this and also take a look at how these flights work. Thanks, Ben.
Cool. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
150.
So tell us about your job here. What you do when you go out on one of these flights like this. What's maybe the first thing that goes through your mind when a call comes in?
The first thing I wonder about when we get a call is whether or not we can safely take the call. And that's going to depend on a lot of things that we decide as a crew. We talk with our pilot, and then I'll talk with my nurse, talk about things like the weather, how far away the call is, if we have safe conditions to fly. Once we know we're good to go there, then we're out the door and starting to do our safety checks.
Just talking about the helicopter itself, this is essentially, from what I understand, a mobile ICU unit. Is that correct?
Yes,
So
sir.
no matter what the situation is, you're going to have some pretty top-notch equipment to work with in here.
Yes, we do. And a lot of what we end up using depends on what type of patient we have. And like I said, sometimes we don't have all that information.
And so you're flying, you're dealing with whatever that situation is, all in this pretty tight environment. I mean, it's understandable. It's a helicopter. You're not in a giant ICU room. So how do you train to work through something like that and work in this tight environment while you're also, flying a helicopter or in a helicopter and trying to save someone's life?
Right. A big part of what plays into that is, we work as a crew. So it's, in this case, Life Flight typically flies the pilot, the nurse, and the paramedic. We all have our roles. At some point, they overlap. At some point, there are different strengths and weaknesses that we play off each other. And just learning how those kind of mesh together is what really plays a role here.
What do you think is the most important thing for the general public to know about Life Flight and what you do here?
The most important thing probably for the general public to know is it is our goal to be there for you when you need it. And whether that means that you're in a small community hospital somewhere that maybe they don't have those advanced resources that you need to fix your stroke or your heart attack or your bad traumatic event, our goal is to be there to get you to where you need to go. Or whether you're upside down in a car, by a river somewhere, our goal is to be there and work with our partners on the ground to make sure we can get you to definitive care as quickly as possible.
Wow. Well, thank you for what you do.
Yeah, thank you, Greg.
So for you, what is it that made you want to join something like this extremely stressful situation, or at least to me anyway, where you go out and you don't know what your day is going to be. You don't know how it's going to happen. Maybe you get a call, maybe you don't, but you could be helping to save someone's life or dealing with that situation. Why do you want to do that?
A flight crew came to my high school career day, and they left such an impression on me, and I'll never forget them. And I just thought, I want to do that someday. And so really my whole career has been working towards this.
Wow.
And so I'm just really, really happy to be here. It just seems like the pinnacle of what I could ever do with my nursing career. Just the scope of practice is far greater than what I could be doing in a hospital. We get to just work on the front line with the patients, and not to mention the views are pretty great too.
The views are good, I will say that.
Yeah.
So looking at it, you've wanted to do this since then, you've known that. So walk me through that phone call comes in, or that notification that you get. What's the first thing that goes through your mind when that happens?
So it kind of just depends on what kind of call that we're doing. So if we're doing an interfacility call, we will get a little bit of patient information, basically an age, weight, generally like what they're here for, and if they're on any kind of respiratory support or not, so if they're like on a ventilator or not. And then based on that information, I'm kind of formulating what I might anticipate for this call, what kind of needs that the patient may have. If it's a scene call, so where we're going to like the side of the road for a bad car crash or things like that, we really get no information, and so yeah, we just have to just kind of walk in and see what we have and go from there.
So it's that combo of using your training and your experience, but also maybe improvising probably a little bit too at the same time. Not knowing what resources or utensils or tools you have there. I guess.
And a lot of what that comes down to, honestly, is just practice, practice, practice. Like as cheesy as that sounds, but we're always like practicing in between calls. When we're not on calls, we're practicing our advanced skills and going through scenarios and things like that. And that's really helped me on a lot of different calls of when you're in the moment, it's really, really stressful, and it's the middle of the night, 2:30 in the morning, and it's dark out, when your brain just shuts off. Just having had that repetition, you just kind of go to what you know, and that's really been helpful.
Is that kind of what it is? Like your brain just shuts off kind of those outside world feelings, emotions? Do you just have to like?
In the moment,
Get that
it's
down?
in the moment. That's all that I'm thinking about in the moment. I'm not thinking about what's going on at home or anything. It's like we have to do what we have to do in the moment.
Yeah, and get through that situation. And then, for you, just for the life of what you do, how do you decompress after something like that? I mean, granted, this is what you're used to, so your level of being able to handle stress is a little different than mine. But how do you manage that? And kind of those two different worlds.
Oh, sure. Everybody's got their own things. A lot of people here are into like a lot of outdoor activities and sports. I myself, I'm an avid gardener, and so my garden is where I kind of decompress and go on walks, hikes, things like that.
So one last question here, it's not just that you're in there, helping to save somebody's life, most likely. That, I mean, if they're going to be getting this call, that's probably what it is. But you're also dealing with people in there, and someone going through probably the worst day of their life. So what do you think is one of the most important things people should know when it comes to that side of things?
Oh, yeah. That is a really cool aspect of the job, is getting to be there on somebody's worst day of their life and making it a little bit better. Sometimes there's not a lot that I can do to make a really bad situation better, but sometimes there is a little, a little something, whether that be, keeping somebody comfortable. Sometimes people just need somebody's, hand to hold up in the air.
Yeah.
Even when there's a lot of things going on, just sometimes just having that little bit of comfort can really, really help and make a big difference.
Absolutely. That's that certainly is one of the most important things in those situations. Well, thank you, for telling us about what you do. And now, I mean, I would love to talk about the flight as well. This situation of that call comes in. I think we're going to go talk to the pilot here about how that works as well.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks. Well, we're going to walk through, what it's like when a call comes in. Obviously, this is not a real call. You would not want me being on that flight. But what those steps are when you get that. So you get a notification, that says there's an emergency somewhere. Tell us what that's like. What kind of information you receive, and then what do you do after that?
Yeah, on the company phone, we'll get usually push to talk. They'll kind of sort of hail us, say, hey, Life Flight 2, this is Life Flight Base. Well, Life Flight 2, go ahead. And then they'll say that they have a flight request or a standby request, depending on if they know that they want us to go for sure, or if they just want to have us get ready, but not go yet because they're still looking at the patient condition or something, or they haven't got to the patient yet. They'll send us a text message, and that'll have coordinates and a distance and heading for us to go on.
So you get that, you decide, okay, we're going to take this flight. Like, this is something that we're going to go do. What's the next step after that?
A flight will pop up on our flight tracker, go into it. I'll see the what place info they have for me on there, and then we've got a risk analysis that we go through and tick any things that might add to the risk. Like, is it at night? That makes it riskier. Is it, have we already had more than 3 calls today? Because now maybe we're more fatigued. And then it gives us a score, and if depending on how high that is, that can make us have to call management to discuss this more, because maybe it's not safe for us to go.
Gotcha.
But so if the risk is looking acceptable, then we send that off. Just double check our weight and balance, making sure the right weights are in the right spots for the crew and fuel, any extra cargo.
How long does it take you to ascertain all of that information, going through everything that we just talked about right there?
All that takes maybe just a couple minutes, a minute.
So you accept the flight, and then you're out walking towards the aircraft. Is that what you do after this?
Yep.
As you're doing this, what's going through your mind while you're heading out there to go on this flight, to go out to whatever it may be, whatever the situation is that you just found out about?
A lot of times I'm thinking about the weather. This time of year. Are there other backups I need to think of in case the weather turns?
Yeah.
Did I miss anything? Because, at any point we could still turn around, but the least risky thing is to make the decision, oh, we shouldn't go, before you even take off.
Yeah.
So did I miss anything?
Are you going to be safe to do this?
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you do that and maintain that separation from what's going on? I mean, literally right behind your head, there could be, somebody fighting for their life.
Yeah.
And while you're flying, and in the whatever conditions those may be.
Yeah, sometimes it's a little chaotic in the back, because I can hear them talking on the headsets. Some things I can do is I can turn them down on the intercom. Otherwise, just have to block them out and focus on the safety of flight. So that's the main thing. Is I'm just providing the service of flying them around, basically, and I can't let what's going on in the back really filter in much as far as like my decision making, because that's when mistakes can get made and like limits can be pushed.
Yeah. If you get distracted by that, that's that's got to be a tough thing to do. To do that, but I mean that's why you're doing it. Anything else that you think is really important, just for people to know about the work that you do when you're up there in the, flying this in these crazy conditions sometimes?
Maybe just more on the safety of flight aspect. That the med crew is doing their part to keep the patient as safe as they can, and I'm doing my part to keep all of us as safe as I can. Completing the flight. I want them to get to the destination safely and go home. I want the med crew to be able to go home to their families safely, and I want to go home safely too.
So I mean, when you touch down, is that when you know that you've done your job and that you've done a part of this to, as you mentioned, help people out?
Touchdown is like the receiving hospital. That's like the main. Okay, we did it, and now we're kind of more relaxed. We can decompress a little bit and make our way back to base. Get ready for the next call.
Well, thank you, for having some time to talk to us, and thank you for what you do. I mean, this is obviously you're very good at this job. You enjoy this job, but for most people, this would seem like the most stressful situation in the world, and somehow you're able to do this and help everybody out. It's appreciated.
Thank you.
That was a lot of fun and very interesting and fascinating to go out there to Life Flight. Huge thank you to everybody that we spoke with there and the crew, and for doing what they do, because as it's pretty much alluded to and talked about in there, it's not the flight that you want to have to take, but when you need it, you're going to be very appreciative that you have it. And thanks to them for all that they do and for having us out. And huge thank you to Ann for shooting and editing that and putting that all together. We were out there for quite a while, so we want to make sure that we got all those highlights to you. So thanks for joining us. Again, this is Fox 12 Now. We live stream here out of the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom. I said at the beginning, just going to reiterate it. We appreciate you joining us. Download those Fox 12 Oregon apps, and that is a good way to follow along with everything that we are doing here. And we've got more throughout the afternoon. We're live right now. If you're watching after the fact, feel free to share this segment, let other people know about it. But if you are watching live, stick with us, because more coming up at 1:30 p.m. I'll just say this, since it's Friday before the big game that is happening this weekend. We've got NFL sideline reporter Stacey Dales who's going to be joining us and talking about what it's like there right now for Media Day and some insights into the Eagles. So a little bit of a timestamp on that. But again, we appreciate you joining us all, and we'll talk to you soon. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.